All right, let's try the grouping method again. So here is our expression that we're going to factor with grouping. It has 4 terms, so grouping you do with 4 terms. And this one looks a little more complex because look, I got things like x cubed in there, and we didn't have x cubed in the last one we did. The other thing I notice is it's not in standard form, it's in the wrong order. So I'm going to, before I start, put it in the correct order. So the variable x has an x cubed, that's the largest exponent on x, so I'll put that first. Then I'll go to the next largest exponent, and then the next largest, and then 48. So before I even start my problem, I'm going to reorder it. So I'm going to cross this one out so I don't get confused. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to look for 2 GCFs, one in the front 2, one in the back 2. And I'm going to pay attention to negatives if we have any, and then I'll do the grouping with what we use to try and help remember it as the magic and the orphan. So here I go to the first one. So I look for the greatest common factor that'll come out of those first 2. I can't get a number out, right? This has a 1 in front of it. So I could take out a 1 here, but I usually don't write the 1. And then I look at the x's, and I've got 2 x's on this second term and x cubed on the first term. So the best I can do is take out an x squared. And you can put a 1 there if you want. I'm going to bring that down, 1x squared, and I'll do my division, right? So this is really a division bar right here. So 1 divided by 1 is 1. X cubed divided by x squared, if I look at my exponents, 3 minus 2 equals 1. So this is going to be x to the 1. And then this second term right here, right, I'm looking at this to do division. 3 divided by 1 is 3. It's a positive 3. And then x squared over x squared, those will cancel each other out, so there's no x there. And let me clean up the parentheses. I'll put it right here. And we usually don't write this as 1x to the 1. That's really just x, right? So how about we clean that up as well and call this x. And I don't always show a coefficient in front of 1. Now let's go to the next one. And let's see what comes out of this one. So I look for the biggest number I can get out of this, the biggest GCF. So be careful, because you can divide 16 and 48 by a lot of things. You can divide it by 2, you can divide it by 4. You're looking for the biggest thing, the biggest number. And actually the biggest number I can divide out of both of them is actually 16. And now I look at any variables I can take out. That has an x, but this one doesn't have an x. So since the 48 doesn't have an x, I can't take out an x in my GCF. So the best I'm going to do is 16. There's a positive right here, so this is a positive 16. And I bring it down here. 16x divided by 16 is just x. 48 divided by 16 is 3. And hey, look, this makes me feel good because you know right now that you're doing it correctly. Look, those 2 binomials are exactly the same. Remember on a previous video we called those the magic? The magic happens if you see those 2 things are the same. If they aren't the same, if you don't have any magic, then you can't factor this one, or you've done something incorrect. So here's how I solve with the grouping, or finish it with the grouping. I take my 2 magics and I write them together as one binomial. And then these up here in front I call the orphans. And I create a new family or a new binomial based on the orphans. And I got to pay attention to negatives. There just happens to be that there's no negatives in this one. And I'll color code it again so you can see where things go. The 2 magics combine into one binomial. And then the orphans combine into a new binomial, a new family. And again, I won't do it, but if you wanted to check your work, you could multiply those 2 binomials together. Typically you do it with something you've learned, FOIL or the box method. and you will go back to what you originally started with. It would be x cubed plus 3x squared plus 16x plus 48. And this would be your answer. This is your factoring by grouping. This is just to check it.